a lot of my mass is built on anabolic steroids. So if I were to compare based on the results that I saw with my wife and all my other clients, considering what kind of performance enhancing drugs they would take, I would say 200 milligrams of turkesterone is comparable to about.
So the turkesterone, by the
Yeah.
way, we have a small batch of turkesterone that is going to be released. Very that was good singing. I should have sent you one, Leo. Sorry.
I don't know one.
So I've been very pleased with the results so far, like overwhelmingly pleased to the point where it's actually performing better than I thought. We've had people competing in powerlifting meets that it's actually improving their max benches, max squats. And Steve is one of I would defer to one of the most highly deferred to for who I trust their opinion on the efficacy of products. And he has a lot of female clients in particular too, who these are the best individuals to test out if something that's non-androgenic is actually useful, if it can actually stack up to something that's tissue selective or not. So we were sort of test driving it for the past, I don't know, a couple months on Steve's wife, and he has a lot of blood work data now, as well as anecdotal findings on performance metrics and body composition that I thought would be useful to bring out, because we're going to be doing one. We had a bit of raws of the complex as well as the turkesterone active that we have about 1,000 units. They're going to sell out, to be honest, within 30 minutes of this clip whenever it's released. So I'll put the link in the description below for you guys to check out. But Steve, why don't you just break down for us some of your findings in the past while?
For the early birds, make sure you use discount code Vigorous. All right. So my wife ran the experiment for 2 months, starting at 2 capsules of turkesterone, and I see that it's a 10% extract. So it's not 500 milligrams of actual turkesterone. It's 50 milligrams per capsule, correct? So it's 2 capsules per day for 1 month is 100 milligrams of actual turkesterone. And she started at the same time with a diet. She did use other performance enhancing drugs like 7-keto DHEA and growth hormone and diethylmethane, which is over-the-counter supplement, and a GLP-1 receptor agonist. So I mentioned that all in the video that I recorded this morning with her blood work before, during, and after. So it's 1 month on 1,000 milligrams of turkesterone, and then 1 month on 100 milligrams of turkesterone, and then second month was 200 milligrams of turkesterone, and she's pretty close to her previous best shape. So there's a little bit of muscle memory involved here, and of course she's using other performance enhancing drugs. But considering our blood work improved, so our cholesterol levels improved, didn't get any worse by increasing the dose of turkesterone. Liver enzymes improved, by making some positive changes, and her luteinizing hormone, follicle stimulating hormone stayed good.
Yeah, so her total testosterone, we were mentioning earlier how it's very high naturally, and there was no suppression of that whatsoever.
No suppression whatsoever. So
and no liver toxicity or anything.
No liver toxicity, no changes in lipid concentration. So I feel that for women, it's a very good compound, and for naturals as well, considering that's probably the first anabolic they could choose from. Even though it goes to the estrogen beta receptors predominantly. Now, what you didn't touch on in the video, which I did touch on, you see here, maybe you can see the chemical composition, right? So it compares a little bit to testosterone intake. So these compounds, they're very lipophilic. Turkesterone and ecdie steroids are very lipophilic. So what I'm wondering, and I couldn't find any data on it, is if these compounds are subject to esterases and then potentiate some effects through the androgen receptor, because this compound is way too bulky. Oh my God. Is way too bulky to go through the androgen receptor, and that's why it goes through the estrogen beta receptor and potentiates some anabolism there. But I'm wondering if it's subject to esterases, which cleaves off part of the molecule, and then it's still going through the androgen receptor, but I can't find any data on it.
I would think based on the blood work, we would see that
outcome.
The
cholesterol in this.
Yeah, I would think I'd see some sort of impact on HPTA or lipids to some extent if that were the case. And I'm pretty sure in some of the in vitro models, or perhaps even the rodent data, I forget, I don't think it interacts with the AR significantly. So maybe the chemical structure suggests that it may. It definitely looks like it. I can see that. But I don't know. In practical application, it just doesn't seem to behave like an androgen whatsoever.
You know, what I did is I did 200 milligrams of 4 capsules of turkesterone per day, and I didn't see any HPTA suppression either. So that's even more indication considering I just came off a cycle and my HPTA was, barely recovered. So my LH and FSH actually went up after adding the turkesterone in. So it went from about 3 milliIUs per milliliter on the FSH and LH to around 4 to 5. Now my testosterone estradiol went down a little bit. So I feel that this comparison of a month of turkesterone prior and afterwards, I feel that that's just a moment in time. My sexual myoglobulin went down also, but my total testosterone and my estradiol went down also.
Yeah. So I've seen almost maybe like upwards of 10 sets of blood work now at this point with nothing really changes. So to me, it seems like one of my primary concerns was interaction with estrogen receptors. Okay, maybe it's going to have some negative feedback that's going to shut down things. Doesn't seem to do that. Even in and then on the opposite side of the spectrum, is it going to do something like a SARM maybe and then upregulate processes? Doesn't seem to do that either. It seems to just like net neutral, which is very good because that's basically just leaving endogenous processes alone and just contributing to the hypertrophy you can get through ER activation. So I'm thinking this is promising because it can not only be efficacious for naturals, but even for women, you can lower your anabolic burden and use less viralizing drugs and get away with less adding that on top of it. So you can get away with, a lower dose of Anavar perhaps than you would otherwise need to produce the, stage outcomes you need or whatever it is. Or maybe you don't even need anabolics because you can leverage, clenbuterol plus this, plus that, plus whatever, and you don't even have to dip into the things that have androgenic impact. So to me, it's very promising.
It's very promising. So I recorded a 2-hour video that I still need to edit down. So
holy shit!
2 hours. I go very in depth. But
you're gonna put mine to shame, dude.
Yeah. So it's I might have to split up because it's my results and my wife's blood work results. But there's 3 moments in time that we did blood work, and I go through everything, and say this might affect it, this might affect it. Take everything into consideration so people can get a fair review of everything. And you don't see any changes in lipids, liver, kidney, complete blood count, anything. The only thing that my wife noticed is that she got stronger in a caloric deficit and she recomped at the same time. But she also used growth hormone, a GLP-1, and 7-keto DHEA and diamylmethane alongside of it. So it's not the sole performance enhancing drug that's part of her stack, but it is the sole. She didn't use clenbuterol because I didn't want to false positive because clenbuterol acts as an anabolic agent as well. So the sole true anabolic agent was turkesterone, and she improved. And I feel that after PCT, I was kind of miserable, because my gym performance was so terrible. So it's like, okay, no HPTA suppression. Let's give it a run. 200 milligrams of turkesterone per day. And I got a little bit stronger, but I was able to preserve most of my strength. But my training capacity went back up again. So what I got most of it was increased soreness because training was more enjoyable. And, I started to train a little bit harder and heavier. But, a lot of the recovery is not really there compared to anabolic steroids. And, of course, a lot of my mass is built on anabolic steroids. So if I were to compare based on the results that I saw with my wife and all my other clients, considering what kind of performance enhancing drugs they would take, I would say 200 milligrams of turkesterone is comparable to about 2.5 milligrams of Anavar. Not milligram for milligram on Dianabol like that study.
Yeah.
Like that study would suggest. So I put it third on the list after DHEA, growth hormone. Then turkesterone probably be the third option for women, considering there's no negative effect and there's no side effects either.
And the context on the DHEA for women is it actually increases free testosterone levels significantly in women, whereas for men, it's pretty much useless. So that's the context on that. So for a natural guy, DHEA would not, I don't think DHEA would be above turkesterone on the list. I think. No,
it's purely for women. And the reason why I never put my wife on DHEA is because her testosterone levels were already high in her DHEA sulfate. The DHEA concentrations are, pretty much all top of the reference range. So I would put her on 7-keto DHEA to keep her metabolism going in a caloric deficit. And that works very well. I mean, my wife is 37, so, we're all getting up there in age and metabolism is slowing down. So that's why I put her on the, the growth hormone and the 7-keto. And I feel that most of her results came from the turkesterone regarding the strength increase, and she got significantly stronger. Almost comparable to when she was doing contest preps.
Awesome.
So that's very noticeable, and she was really, going to town in the gym. She retired from competing 2.5 years ago, and after that, I kind of let her do her own thing, because I was in her ear 24/7 as a live-in coach, which is a little bit strenuous on your workout or in your relationship. I mean, because it's not healthy to have your husband then they're like, hey, do cardio, hey, eat your meal, hey, do this supplement, hey.
Horrible, yeah.
It's horrible, yeah. But
Living
that's
proof.
one of the reasons why she never placed out of the top 3, because I was, in her ear 24/7. But after she stopped competing, I was like, okay, I'll just let her do what you want.
So can I ask you 2 questions? Number 1, how does it compare to Ostarine, which is the only SARM I've ever tried? And number 2, does it produce an acute strength increase like the way Anavar does or something else?
No, there's no acute strength increase. So the results were very progressive. So on 100 milligrams of turkesterone, she noticed she got a little bit stronger. Her diet was more effective. She lost the weight easier. No change in cardio performance, but she noticed like, hey, my calories are like 1,500 a day, eating 2 meals per day, because the liraglutide is suppressing the appetite through the natural pathway of satiation. And her workouts would then be performed like before she would eat food, but she would be stronger than before. So no food in the system, and caloric deficit, getting stronger. But again, there's a little bit of what is it called, muscle memory attached, because when she was really dialed in for the competition, of course her strength would be significant, and everything would be in place. So I think she restored some of her old strength, even though she was in a caloric deficit. And Ostarine, I don't have so much experience with it, because I ran an Ostarine experiment myself, and I recommended it to some of my competitor female clients in the figure class or classic physique class. And we all noticed the same thing. Strength went down.
Oh, wow.
And that's switching from a traditional like 2.5 milligram
that's
Anavar
adding it on top. That's adding it on top. So I was on hormone replacement, and some of my clients were like 2.55, 10 milligrams of Anavar. I'm always very conservative, because I promote anabolism through every possible pathway besides virilization. So whether that's the growth hormone, the insulin, the IGF-1, the 7-keto DHEA, clenbuterol, I would exhaust those avenues before putting them on Anavar, and then a low dose of Anavar would go a very long way, so without any virilization. And then I was like, okay, let's see if we can do the androgen receptor pathway, or modulate the androgen receptor further. And then you add in 5 milligrams of Ostarine, strength goes down. So what I feel is that
it must have a higher affinity for the receptor than
exactly, and then prevent some of the Anavar from attaching and potentiating their effects that way. So I was on hormone replacement for bodybuilders, 250 milligrams per week, generous, very generous.
Yeah.
3-plate squats, decent amount of reps. I add in 30 milligrams of Ostarine on top. I couldn't even squat 315 anymore.
Well, that presents a really interesting tangent that I want to bring up about AR competition and like physiologic fulfilling of it. But so my camera's going to die in like 2 seconds. So if you guys want to check it out, we only have 1,000. They're going to sell out literally within 30 minutes of this video. So check it out. I'm making sure that next time we are never running out again. But this stuff, you have to get the active ingredient, and then you have to send it across the world to get the hydroxyl propyl beta cyclodextrin complex added and then sent back. So it's like a multi-month process. So bear with me while I get more, but I'm working on making sure we're never out again. And it's work in progress. But for now, if you can get it, stock up, because we are not going to have
Steve
it
for 10% off.
You motherfucker. So anyway, check it out. It's first link it's in the pinned comment. So check it out.